Hello everyone, and welcome to another live training session here with me, your host, Gary. Great to see everybody on the chat already, and great to hear from all of you. We've got people from all over the world, right around the corner here in Sun Prairie to India and points beyond. So it's really cool to see everybody here. I learned in the last live session that there's just no way I can keep up with this chat as it flies by, but Bree is watching it and will try to help you if you've got any questions or so forth, and she may pass a few questions along to me along another channel. But let's jump into the training for today because we've got a lot to talk about, and time always seems to fly faster than I think it's going to. Today I have another, I guess, basic training planned for you, although I think even advanced users are going to learn a few things from this week's training. It was interesting to see many comments last week from people that said, I've been using Vegas for 5 years, 10 years, 12 years, and I still learned something. I didn't know that shortcut, or I didn't know this little technique. So that's really cool. I'll try to sprinkle in more of those kinds of things as we go along here, so that there is something here hopefully for everyone, no matter how advanced of a user you are. What I want to talk about today is video effects. And the title that we used for this training is Video Effects in 4 Places. And I'll show you what that means here. But really I want to talk to you more extensively about video effects in general. And especially if you're a new user, it can be a little difficult to really understand how the effects work, where you should put them, and what the different ways to getting to them are all about. So I'd like to clear some of that stuff up today and show you some techniques that maybe you don't know already. Okay, so let me minimize my video here and get me out of the way so that you can see my project. And I'll just tack that off into the corner here for now. So what you see here in front of me and on your screen now is Vegas Pro. I've put together just a simple little project that has 4 events, I think. No, 4 events, 3 tracks, 4 events. And what I want to do here is to just go through some of the effects techniques that we have. So right now, these effects don't have any, these events don't have any effects on them. There, that's what I was trying to do. Now I see my whole project. Five events, 3 tracks. And none of these pieces of video have any effects on them right now. I've put markers on each one of them so I can click on the marker to take you to each one, and I'll just show you what they all look like in an unaffected state, so that when we start adding things to it, you'll start seeing what they look like. Last week I told you that we can drop these markers, and I told you that if you type the number along the top of your keyboard, you can navigate to these markers. So I could just click on each one to show you the next one, but I'm going to use that keyboard shortcut. So you're now looking at marker number 2, just this white truck. I press 3 and I jump to the next one. And the next one is this green truck, and then the next one is this same picture. So if you noticed, marker 3, which is here, and marker 5, which is here, show the same piece of media. And then I've got a reason for that, which I'll show you in a little bit. Right now, none of these pieces of video have any effects on them whatsoever. So let's start putting some effects on them, and I'll mention a few things along the way that hopefully will teach you a little bit better how to use effects in Vegas Pro. And by the way, everything that I talk about here in Vegas Pro that I'm showing you now also works identically in Vegas Movie Studio Platinum. Some of it also works in the basic version of Movie Studio, but definitely they all work in the Platinum version of Vegas Movie Studio. So even though I'm in Vegas Pro here, if you're a Vegas Movie Studio user, there's still plenty of knowledge here for you as well. Okay, the first thing I want to show that I want to talk about is how you get to the effects in Vegas Pro. And there are two sort of main ways, and if you hold on a second, I've got a jet flying overhead. It might get kind of loud in a second. Okay. There are two general ways to add video effects in Vegas Pro. The first general way is to go up to the Video Effects tab in the window docking area and open the Video Effects window. And in this window, you've got a tree view on the left, and if I scroll down, you can see all of the plugins that I have listed on my computer. So right now I'm looking at the All view. I happen to not have any third-party plugins on this machine, I don't think. So everything you see here is included with Vegas Pro. As you scroll down, you see some other folders down here that organize the effects in various different ways, including a third-party folder. If you have third-party plugins, you can find them in there. For the most part, these folders, most of you aren't really going to use these folders. Mostly you're going to either just find the plugin you want in the All list, or maybe the Vegas list or the third-party list. These other folders can be useful in certain situations, but by and large, you're not really going to use those. So if I'm in my list here and I decide, okay, I want to add an effect to my project, I simply choose it from the list. And when I do, I get a number of presets that show up, and then I can drag these presets into my project, and we'll take a look at that in a second. Before we do that, though, the other way to get to video effects is through what we call the effects chooser. You'll notice that on each of the events in my timeline, there's a little button right here. If I hover over it, it's called the Event Effects button. And you can see it on each one of these events, Event Effects. And if you click on that button, you'll bring up the plugin chooser for Video Event Effects. And here again are all the list of all my plugins and the folder structure that we saw a minute ago, and so forth. So those are just two different ways to get to the effects. And I want to make sure that you know both of those ways, because you'll use them at different times for different reasons. And I'll kind of go through and show you sort of how I use these tools. So let me cancel out of this for now, and I'll close this. Okay, let's go ahead and add an effect to our project. So like I said, in the Video Effects window, we can navigate to the effect that we want. So let's say I want, for instance, this bump map effect, and it brings up presets that I can choose from. So let's just say I want this preset. To add it to the event number 1 here on my timeline, all I do is drag the preset and drop it right onto that event. Now, before I let go of the mouse button, take a look at that effects button again. You'll notice that when I drop this effect onto the event, that button lights up a little bit. And let me go ahead and release my mouse button and move this out of the way. And now you can see that that button has a blue tint to it. If you look at one of the other buttons on these other events, they don't have the blue tint, and that is an important clue for you, because it tells you there are no effects on these events, but there is an effect on this event. Now this button, in this case, it's called the Event Effects button, but that same icon is used in several different places, and we'll take a look at all of those places. But anytime you see that icon, that's a button you can click on to add an effect at that particular place. And if that button is blue, then that button, that location already has an effect applied to it. Now, when I added the effect, this Video Event Effects box came up, and it contains all of the parameters for the effect that I added. Now, let me navigate back to marker number 1, and now you can see the results of the effect that I added in the video preview window. Above the parameters for this plugin is a chain, and this chain of events, it's a chain of events, and it can hold up to 32 events. So if I decided to add another effect to this same chain, I could choose something from the list and drop it on, or I can click the plugin chain button, which opens up the plugin chooser, which I showed you a moment ago, and I can choose another plugin and add it to the chain. So I'm going to click cancel here. But it's important to remember that you can have up to 32 plugins in a single chain. So you can go crazy with adding effects and plugins to your project at the event level and all the other levels that I'm about to show you. I won't spend too much time in here, but just suffice it to say that you can come in and you can change the parameters to make your video look exactly like you want it to look. I'm going to just set something up that's quite noticeable so that we can see it as we navigate back and forth in the project. Now, another thing to notice is that when I added this preset, it came up with a series of parameters, and I've just adjusted those parameters to come up with this very special look. Maybe this is my favorite look and I always want to remember this look. You can save that look as a preset. So to do that, I select the preset drop-down list, or the name of the current preset, and give it a new name. I'll just call it Test 1 or Test, and click the Save button. When I do that now and drop down the preset button, you can see that I have all my regular presets plus the new preset that I chose. So if I want to add this to another event or some other place, I can simply choose it from that preset. So let's say we don't want it on this event. We can easily take it off with the Remove Selected Plugin button, which is right here. Click that, and now it's gone, and you can see in the video preview window that my video looks normal again. But in this case, I do want it on, so to put it back on, instead of going through all those manual steps that I did, because I saved a preset, I can just drop down the preset list and, oh, sorry, I have to actually add the effect first. I can add it like I did before, and now instead of going through all those parameters, I can just add my preset and it looks the way I want it to look again. Okay, so what I've just shown you is the first of the 4 places where you can put an effect in Vegas Pro and Vegas Movie Studio, and that's at the event level on the timeline. And I can show you that this effect that I put on this video is only on this event by clicking through the other tabs. So you don't see it on this event, you don't see it on this event, I'll press 4, you don't see it on this one, and you don't see it on number 5 either. It's only on number 1, which I'll navigate back to, because I put it only on that effect. Now, what if I want it on some of these other events? Well, I could go through the manual process again, or I can right-click, choose Copy, go to my next event, which will use this truck one here, and right-click and choose Paste Event Attributes, or selectively paste event attributes. And there are several attributes that get pasted, so you have to be a little bit careful about what you want to do. In this case, I'll choose selectively paste. I get a list of different attributes that I can paste, and in this case, let's say I just want to paste my effects. And when I say OK, it pastes it in, and now I have the same effect on 2 different events in my timeline. And I could go through all of those and do all of them if I want. I'm going to take that effect off of this event. Now notice, if I need to get back to my parameters, I just click the Event Effects button. It takes me back to my parameter box. Here's the effect that it put on there. I don't want it on there anymore. I click Remove Selected Plugin, and it's gone. Okay, so the point is that I can put it on an individual effect and just change that piece of video without changing everything else in my project. Okay, but what if I do want to change multiple things in my project? So let's say I want that same event, that same effect on both of these events. Well, I just showed you one way to do that. You can copy the attributes from one to the other. But let's say I have 50 events on this track 1, and I want them all to have a similar effect on them. To do that, as with many things in Vegas, there are many different ways you could do it, but one of the easiest ways to do it is to apply the effects at a different level. So instead of applying the effects at the event level for 50 different events on the same track, I can apply that effect to the track level. And again, there are two different ways to do it. I can go to the video effects window and I can say, let's just find a plugin to put on there. Let's say we want to put a film effects look on that track. I can find the film effects look that I want, I can drag it, and I can drop it right onto the track. When I do that, the parameter box opens up, and you see in the video preview window that my ambulance that I was working with a moment ago now has the film look, as well as the original effect that I put on the event. So what have we done here? We've put one effect on the event itself, and another effect on the track that holds that event. Well, what's the advantage of putting it on the track instead of the event? The advantage is now if I go to my second event on that track, you'll see that it also has that film look to it. So when you add something to the track, it applies it across the track. So just like with event effects, I can have up to 32 effects on my track. So now I'm up to 64 effects. If I put 32 on the event and 32 on the track, I could have up to 64 different effects on this one, on any given clip on that track, any given event on that track. Pretty powerful. So now, what if I decide this is not the look I want on this track and I want to change it? Well, just like there's this little effects button on the event itself, tracks also have such a button. By default, we hide it underneath the burger menu. So if I click the hamburger button and I go down the list, here it is called Track Effects, and it brings back up my parameters for that track, and I can say, oh, I just wanted to make an adjustment. I don't want it to look like 1908. I want it to look like 1980. And just like that, we've changed the look. So that's, we can also go to Track Effects originally to add an event to that track, an effect to that track. So just make sure you always understand there are basically at least two ways to get to effects in all cases, either by dragging them directly onto the item or by using the track effect or the event effect button to do it. Okay, so now we've got the old film look on track number 1, and on the first event on track number 1 we have this bumpy look. So the first event looks like this, the second looks like this. But if we go down to what's on track 2 and track 3, we can still see they remain completely unaffected. They have their own individual track effects, so we could add different track effects or the same track effect and use the preset system that we used and so forth. So we can do all of that. Let's talk about the third place where I can put effects, the third method for applying effects. Remember that I have the same clip in event number 3 as I do on event number 5. When I go from one to the other, you notice it's exactly the same clip. Many times you'll be using the same overall clip in your project, but you'll cut it up into separate events on your timeline, like I have here. I have 2 events that hold the same clip. And I might want to do something like some color correction or something like that to those to that clip. Well, I don't necessarily want to have to go to every instance of it in my timeline and apply the same look. Or maybe they're not always on the same track, so I can't just do it by adding it to the track. If I know it's something that I want to do to every instance of this clip on my timeline, what I want to do is add it to the media level. So let's come up here to the media, to the project media window, click the project media tab, and if you look through the buttons at the top, sure enough, right here is a button called Media Effects. So here's how I might do this. I'm in my timeline, I'm working, maybe I don't have the project media window open, and I decide, oh, I have this clip in my project a couple of different times, but I need to do some color correction on it. One thing I can do is to right-click that clip, and I can say, if I can find it, it's kind of hard to see on my little screen here, select in Project Media List from the context menu. That opens my Project Media window and selects that clip in the Project Media window. And then I can click the Project Media or the Media Effects button. And when I do, up opens the familiar plugin chooser that by now you're getting used to, right? So let's say I want to do a little color balancing on this event. I choose color balance from the list. I click the add button, or by the way, I can just double click the name of it and it'll add it to the chain. Speaking of the chain, I can add up to, you guessed it, 32 plugins to this chain. So now we're 32 times plus 32 plus 32, and I guess that's what, 96 plugins in that could be on one item just by piling them on the chain. So you can see how crazy powerful this can get. You're going to run out of machine processing power most likely before you run out of the ability to put plugins into your project, put video effects into your project. But let's go ahead and add this color balance plugin to that media. And now let's move this out of the way a little bit, and let's just do something drastic just so that you can see it. I've done my color correction, my color balancing on the media, and you can see that my cursor is over here on number 5. And so we're seeing the output of number 5 here. But if I go back to number 3, it also has that color balance. So when you add something at the media level, like I've done here, it's going to affect that clip no matter when or where on your timeline you use it. So if I split this event, I'm going to put my cursor into it and press S to split, and now I have another event on my timeline and drag it over here. All 3 of these will have the same color tint to them now, because I've applied that color tint to the media at the media level. Okay. You can also get to media effects by right-clicking the event itself and choosing media effects from the context menu. That's a fast way to get to it. And if I do it and make an adjustment here, so let's say we don't want it to be red, we want it to be blue or whatever, then again, as I switch through the 3 different events on my timeline, they all have that same adjustment because I'm making the adjustment at the media level, not the event level or the track level. Okay. Now there's one more place, and I think this is the one that most often gets overlooked. Project Media is, the media level is overlooked very often. Most people know about the event level. Most people probably know about the track level. Many people don't know about the Project Media level unless they're watching right now. And surprisingly, a huge number of people haven't known that from the very beginning, the very first version of Vegas with video capabilities included a 4th place, which is the project level, the video bus level. And let me show you how that works. If you look at the top of the video preview window, there you see it, your familiar little button, effects button called, in this case, Video Output Effects. So what are we doing here? Well, let's just add an effect to the video output and see what happens. Let's say we want to add the black and white filter to the video output. I'll drag it over and drop it onto the video preview window, and I've now made that particular frame that you can see black and white. But since I've added it to the video preview window, this is considered the video bus level. And since I've added it there, that black and white filter is now added everywhere in my project. So no matter where I click, no matter which event I choose or which event you see in the preview window, you see the black and white effect applied to it. And just as we've been counting up, you can add up to 32 effects to the video bus level as well. So I think we're up to 96, add another 32 to that. You guys can do the math, but it's a lot, and it's a lot more than you're likely ever to use. So if you want if you want an effect on the entire project, and you want to be able to control it in one place, add it to the video bus itself, and it as everywhere. If I decide I don't want this to be fully black and white, but maybe I just want it to be desaturated a little bit, like a blend amount of around 0.5 or 50%, I can just change that, and no matter what event I look at, it has changed that event everywhere. And again, I can go to full black and white and go around. So those are the 4 places where we can add video effects to Vegas Pro and Vegas Movie Studio. Now there is one more place that I want to talk about, and it's not really a different place, but it's a slightly different method. And that is the brand new color grading panel that's available in Vegas Pro. Sorry, let's get rid of this so that those don't continue to pop up. The color grading panel offers yet another way to add effects to your projects. But really, this is just another way to add event level effects. So let me show you. I'm going to go to an event that doesn't have an effect on it. Let's go to this event, and I'm going to remove temporarily the video bus event. I don't want to remove it completely. Maybe I want it there, but I just don't want to see it right now. So I can just click this little checkbox by the name of the plugin in the chain, and that bypasses it. So that even though that is still there, it's not affecting my video because I've bypassed it. So maybe I want to do some color correction to this truck event here. So I've selected it. I have my color grading panel open, and I'll just do something drastic again so you can see the results. Notice that the event now has a lighted button indicating that that event has an effect on it where it didn't before. This shows you that when you do something in the color grading panel, you're actually adding an effect to the event level. If I click on that button, you can see that my color grading plugin is now in my chain, and a little piece of instruction that says if you want to change the parameters, then go to the color grading panel. But it's important for you to remember or to realize that when you use the color grading panel in Vegas Pro, you're actually adding an event effect to the event. Why is that important to remember? Because now I could come up here and, like we did before, I could save a new preset with this color correction to it, and I could apply that preset anytime I wanted to any event on my timeline that I wanted to. When I have the color grading panel open like I do here, as soon as I click on another event, I'll click on this one in a moment, it applies that plugin to that event. So right now you see that that event does not have a plugin on it. The button is not lit blue, but as soon as I click it, the button lights blue, and my color grading panel resets because I haven't done any color correction on this, and I can do whatever I want here to change it in my color grading panel. And so that's kind of a fifth way to add effects to your project, but you're really just adding event effects to your project when you do that, and that's just a little tidbit for you to understand and remember. Okay, let's close the color grading panel, and let's take a look at one more thing here. Actually, I'm going to open the color grading panel again, and let's talk about exporting LUTs in Vegas Pro. Once you've done all your color work like I've done here, I can export this LUT as a lookup table that I can apply using the Import LUT plugin anywhere else in my project that I want to. You can also create LUTs, I'll close this now, you can also create LUTs in the plugin chooser itself. So if I go to the plugin chain button, it opens up the plugin chooser. If I added a bunch of color kind of adjustment plugins here, I can click the Save LUT button and save that as a LUT that I can use either on another project or even on another machine or in some other software if you need LUTs in your other software. So there's a lot of power here, a lot of things that you can do to add effects to your project. Okay, I rifled through that really quickly, and we're at the bottom of the hour here, so our half hour is done. Let me bring this back up so you can see me talking to you again if you'd like to. Hopefully that gives you a good idea of the basic techniques of adding effects to your project. There's a lot of flexibility there, and like I've said a couple of different times, if you start stacking those effects one on top of the other in chains up to 32 plugins long each, you're going to run out of processing power, I'm going to guess, before you run out of the ability to add effects to your project. So each of those 4 levels that I showed you is extremely useful in different situations, and hopefully I've done a good enough job of explaining the difference between them that you can understand why you might want to put one on the event, why you might want to put one on a track, when it makes sense to put one on the entire project or just the media that you've used. When you understand these different levels of effects and the power that that brings to you, you can really start working with your projects and really start crafting your own look for your projects and doing your color correction and so forth. So I hope this has helped you. We will be back next week with another live training. I'm going to go into a little bit more of an advanced topic next week. I think next week, if I remember right, Bree can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think next week we'll be talking about compositing in Vegas Pro and some of the different composite types like add and subtract and various things, including 3D plane compositing. So if you want to know about that stuff, then make sure you tune in next week at the same time, next Tuesday at noon Central Time. That's UTC -5. And we'll have another free training session for you then. I'm going to stop this one, but I'm going to wait for about 20 seconds after I stop talking just to make sure all the information gets buffered through. And I hope to see you next week. Thanks for your participation. The chats are coming in like crazy. I haven't even been able to look at them. I really appreciate it. Don't forget, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel and if you haven't clicked the notification bell, please do it, because we're going to be doing more of these live trainings and you're going to want to be notified when they come up. So please like the video, subscribe, and click the notification bell, and we'll see you next week. Thanks.